I always say this, if you can reflect and look back a year ago and see how much you have changed and grown, like that is the most beautiful transformation I think anybody can ever experience. Listen, it's okay to fail. It's important to fail because some of the most successful people have failed repeatedly. Now, if you're truly living in alignment with yourself, you can look in the mirror, you can say, I'm worthy, I'm loved, I'm appreciated. I always say I walk in the likeness of my Creator, Jesus Christ. Do I fall all the time? I'm imperfectly perfect. Yes. But that's where alignment means. Like, if your hustle has become your hiding place, I think, from my perspective, it's time to shift.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Grind podcast, the show where we dig into why real entrepreneurs trade comfort for conviction. This isn't about vanity metrics or overnight success. It's about the stories behind building a reputation that actually matters. I'm your host, Andrew, keynote architect, platform builder, and fellow founder in the trenches. Today, I'm sitting down with Michael Hicks, the founder of Live to Thrive. Michael's journey from a professional basketball coach to a transformational life strategist is a masterclass in alignment. He's all about helping high performers match purpose with action. As the host of the acclaimed podcast Framing New Heights, he's known for helping listeners reframe their limiting beliefs and reimagine what's possible. Michael brings a unique blend of strategic clarity, mental resilience, and storytelling finesse to the table, and he's here to talk about what it takes to move from confusion to clarity and from hustle to holistic success. So, Michael, thank you so much for being on the show today. We've already had a really awesome conversation. I had a great time being on your podcast the other day. So thanks for trading with me. Thanks for being on today. I really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, well, Andrew, it was a pleasure and so awesome to speak to someone like-minded. And I really appreciate, number one, the invite. And we had such a awesome experience on our podcast. Obviously, I'm coming back to yours, and it's honestly an honor to be on the Hustle and the Grind podcast.
Absolutely. So what I'd like to do is, you've got the interesting background here. So I know we heard a little bit about you in your bio, but how did you how did you found Live to Thrive? Let's start there and then just kind of let the conversation go where it wants.
Wow, brother, that's an excellent question. So I honestly, I went to school to become an educator, and then I got my master's degree in administration. So I did the administration piece, and I honestly felt, and your entrepreneur listeners are going to love this piece, because I felt there was a ceiling. I could go get my PhD. However, there was no going to be any additional income that would go. So here's the weird, odd, particular situation. So I was like, I'm staring at the ceiling. I'm at the highest salary I can go. I felt unvalued. I felt unappreciated. And most, if there's any entrepreneurs that we're transitioning from an education perspective into entrepreneurship, is like, you feel unappreciated. So I was like, there's got to be more. And not only that, Andrew, I was at a point, I came to a crossroads of where I was like searching, like, I am not fully feeling myself, and I didn't feel in alignment with my purpose. So I stepped out and I got into the professional basketball sector, where I was the general manager and basketball coach for a women's professional basketball team. And then I had some fitness that I did on top of that. And then I was like, here's what it is. And this is the bread and butter of why I began Live to Thrive. I had an opportunity to work with Tony Robbins, one of his coaches, one of his mentors. And I remember sitting down there like, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. You have a great story. We're going to brand it. We're going to build it. And literally it went within 2-3 years of basically working with 1 client to 4 clients to 5 clients to 7 clients to 8 clients. And it has been a blossom in disguise. And I'm just telling you, we had talked about this prior to even having a conversation of like uncertainty and falling, and yes, and like we learn from our mistakes, but it's like I just felt like there was that empty pit in my stomach, Andrew, that I knew I was capable of more things. I felt like I needed to provide more value to more people, and to, I'm in the process now. I know we kind of talked about this in my podcast. I'm writing my book, which is going to be, I know, a bestseller. The next step is to get on the stage to be a TED Talk speaker. So I have all these goals and these aspirations of achieving, because I've seen how much I always say this, if you can reflect and look back a year ago and see how much you have changed and grown, like that is the most beautiful transformation I think anybody can ever experience. So to all the listeners that are out there, if you're in entrepreneurship and you're like, man, I feel like this is like a slow, steady turtle race. You're right. It is. But the key though, is to reflect, to see how far you've come 6 months, even a year. So I was really at a breaking point to finally answer your question in a roundabout way, Andrew, I was finally at a breaking point of like, there's gotta be more. I was not fulfilled. And now with this brand that I have, being a father, being a faith-led man, a former professional women's basketball coach, former teacher of the year, former school administrator, I've been able to take all of my life experiences, put them into this beautiful framework and help high achievers, professional athletes I've worked with CEOs, I've worked with government officials, moms and dads, you and I, to really become the best version of themselves. So, and it's such a beautiful thing. You know this because when you can give value to other people, like me just talking about it, brother, I've got goosebumps because that's what life truly is about. Life's not about sucking energy from other people. Life's about giving energy and providing value for other people to be their optimal, most successful self.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that it's a beautiful and a terrible part of entrepreneurship all at once is that it is, how did I hear it put the other day? It was a meme that said, entrepreneurship is better than therapy or is more effective than therapy. Because if you're coming in with demons, or you're coming in with any sort of an issue, you're going to be forced to look at it. You're going to be forced to deal with it and you're going to be forced to overcome it. And it's one of those situations where, and sometimes it's like, oh, well, that kind of sucked and I'm going to dust myself off. And sometimes it's sitting, with your head in your hands at 2:00 in the morning going,
yes,
what I got myself into.
For sure. For sure.
Because we've all been there. This is not for the weak. It's not for somebody that's there. But once you do, once you get it, that these transformations, once you've gotten to a certain point in business, now you're able to help the others say, hey, I've been there. Let's go do this. Let me help you out with this. And it's a gift that we have. It really is.
It is, you're right. And it's almost a blessing. And for all the entrepreneurs that are listening to this and Andrew got me out to speed on your listeners is, listen, it's okay to fail. Mm-hmm. It's important to fail because some of the most successful people have failed repeatedly. Now, I always say, we kind of briefly talked about this and I want to chat about this a little bit, is I always say you can win and lose, or you can win and you can learn from your mistakes. And when you learn from your mistakes, you constantly are going to build and become the better version of yourself. And honestly, true transparency, I'm going to say this, and I'm curious to hear your perspective. No one's done this alone. Everybody's I hear all these comments of like, I'm self-made. No. How are you self-made? There's no way you can be self-made unless you got inheritance by someone that's, a billionaire or whatever it might be. You need a coach. You need a guide. You need someone to help you if you're getting on a stage, wherever it might be. You need mentors, because here's the thing, Andrew, the best coaches have coaches.
Yeah.
For me, for example, life coach, mm-hmm. therapist, mm-hmm. Personal trainer, mm-hmm. And also a good lawyer in case anything ever happens,
Good lawyer's a good thing. Good accountancy. Otherwise.
That's right. We talked about that. We did. Thank you for bringing me back, brother. I appreciate that.
Because I'll tell you, bookkeeping and accounting, there's so many, not to get too deep into it, but there's this one quote that I love. It's by Learned Hand, who is just a very famous jurist, really respected man. He said there's two tax systems, one for the informed and one for the uninformed, and both are legal. And so having a good accountant, has saved me a cajillion dollars, like six figures.
Agreed. Agreed. Yes, brother.
But I think you talked about something called that you went into alignment, and I want to come back to that again because I think it's really, really important. I see a lot of people in what I do that are trying to sell features, they're trying to sell a business, but they're not in alignment with that business, or they may not necessarily do what they're in alignment with. They're just trying to sell us stuff. And so how did you find your alignment? And what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm gonna get I don't know where your perspective, I am a godly led man. It really didn't start for me now until I became spiritually involved. And here's what I'll mean. I'm going to get really detailed and really focused about this because I get uberly excited about this. Truly, Andrew, when my life truly has kind of catapulted into this larger entrepreneurship and now the possibility of becoming a bestseller and getting on the stage and speaking and starting from my business, it started from spiritual hunger. I think that was my biggest hardship that I was struggling with. I was this person that was like, okay, I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't really aligned with, for me, and this is a lot of what I teach to my clients, is understanding the spiritual hunger. Spiritual hunger is more important than physical hunger. It's proven from that perspective. So here's what I'm going to say. For me, and now you can take this framework and you can put it in Buddhism, you can put it in Allah, whatever it is. For me, it's Christianity, right? I was reborn again. I was water baptized. I spend 30 to 45 minutes daily in scripture, in prayer, in journal, and everything that I need. I know everybody, I'll always say, well, what are you reading? What are you reading? Most people are reading what you or I would write. Mm-hmm. I read the Bible. The Bible has guided me and blessed me tremendously. And so on top of that, if I'm going to teach my clients what I do, because that's what they want, then I got to walk the walk. I got to preach. For example, my whole Live to Thrive framework is mind, body, and soul. Mindset. I'm daily growing with a life coach. Also important that daily scripture, things of that nature, purpose, in alignment, tithing, like all of these things, working out, fitness, eating healthy, all of this. If I'm going to, and I want to say this too, I work a lot with relationships, individuals that are struggling with relationships, people that have got kids and they're moving out and they're like, who's this person sitting next to me? I deal with all of this. I also have learned through alignment, Andrew, in the fact of when I teach my relationship perspective with my clients is, dude, that was me. I failed, Andrew, over and over and over again. However, that failure, what I'm going to go allude to, what I talked about earlier, is that was the learning piece. I failed in marriages. I failed being a good quality, a significant other. And I've learned through those processes because now, going back to your original question, I'm living, when the final statement in here, if you're truly living in alignment with yourself, you can look in the mirror. You can say, I'm worthy. I'm loved. I'm appreciated. I always say I walk in the likeness of my creator, Jesus Christ. Do I fall all the time? I'm imperfectly perfect. Yes. But that's where alignment means. If you have an empty pit on your stomach and you truly feel like I am worth more, I need to do more. Well, I'm going to tell you all, if you don't have a coach to get you out of that realm, you're still going to suffer from depression, anxiety, overthinking, worry. All of this negativity is causing you not to be aligned with your true self.
Yeah. And especially as men, we need a purpose, we need alignment. That's our superpower. And if we're in purpose and we're in alignment on something, we are a force to be reckoned with. And not in a way that says we're going to change the world, but without that purpose and without that alignment in what we're doing, if I'm working at McDonald's and I'm not aligned with it, of course, I'm going to be really upset about that. I'm not going to do very well.
100%.
I am not going to thrive. I'm going to be overweight. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be ill all the time. I'm going to have all of these issues. I'm not going to have a good friends group. I think when we work in purpose and alignment, it is something that's incredibly important. And so that's why I wanted to come back to that quickly, because I think it's something that we all sort of know in the back of our head, but I don't think we bring it up enough.
Yeah. And I had a real quick thought too, is if you are in the stage of misalignment, you're not living a joyful life, man. There's something missing, like honestly, something missing.
And I remember thinking about this when I was a kid, going, every person who had some sort of a chronic illness or had some sort of an issue, it's like there's something going on there. This is the illness is a symptom. There's something else in there. They're not in alignment. There's something else that's off. You shouldn't be miserable your entire life. I mean, there's hard work. There's times when things are hard. There's times, like I said earlier, where you're sitting with your head in your hands at 2:00 in the morning going, why the hell did I do this?
For sure.
But it's a different type of hard. That is I am building towards something. And I think that's what people that are not entrepreneurs don't understand about us. And that is we have a passion for what we do. We have a much bigger purpose behind what we're doing. And that's why we can fail over and over and over again, stand back up and say, I'm not done yet. We're getting forward. We're moving forward.
Yeah. And on top of that too, I thought about this is so many people say, I'm going to start tomorrow. How do you know you have tomorrow? Is tomorrow guaranteed? It's the woulda, coulda, shoulda momentum. Your day, I'll just share this really quick. Honestly, I just had 3 to 4 to 5 people that I knew in my life that are at my age that just died. Like literally just died. And yet you're going to say, I'm going to start that new program and that new business on Monday. What if Monday never comes? You've got 2 things, Andrew. By the time your time comes and your day ends, you're going to go in front of your creator, whoever that might be for you. For me, it's God and Jesus Christ. He's going to say to you 2 things. He's going to say, okay, I can show you your highlight reel that you lived, or I can show you the woulda, coulda, shoulda highlight reel that you shoulda lived. You got to ask yourself directly, and you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, which one am I in alignment with? Yeah. And if you're constantly thinking, well, the woulda, coulda, shoulda, well, it's time for the change. And then when people, here's the other thing, Andrew, when you then, I have people that come on my journey calls, and then they talk about it on Facebook, how they want to make these great changes. But when you have a conversation with them and you show them the value, they really don't want to change. Yeah. They still want to live in that I talked about this on a separate podcast, is people would rather be living in their demonic thing, whatever insert that thing is, and instead of taking the next step of clarity and vision. It's, you know what I mean?
Complacency is comfortable.
100%.
That's and I think it's in that complacency where we're like, okay, I just want to live my comfortable life and I want to do this. And, if it works for you, great. I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to anyone. If it works for you, that's fine. But if you have something else in there that says I have something bigger involved, you need to look at it.
100%.
The good stuff is on the other side of that fear.
100%.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things with my brand, Live to Thrive, is I don't label people. Mm-hmm. I listen. And what I do is build individualized strategies around mindset, marriage, mission, and movement. Like which is ironically most of us need, Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's one of the gifts that entrepreneurship can give us, is that it forces us to find those things, and it forces us to find alignment, and it forces us to find, different things in our relationships. It forces us to find different things in our mindsets. Our mindset, you have to go through a mindset change if you're in entrepreneurship for any length of time.
Oh my gosh.
You will not survive it.
Oh, 100%.
The funny thing is, and a lot of people don't realize this, and it's something I'm very passionate about, is once you make that mindset shift in entrepreneurship, and once you get past those fears, and once you get to that point where you're very, very risk tolerant, meaning I can go out, push the button, and figure out what it does later on. Once you get to that point, there is a level of freedom that comes from it that is beyond anything you will ever achieve in this life beyond that.
You are spot on. And I tell myself that fear is a lie as an entrepreneur, because I jump out in faith. And I'm just going to give a biblical reference here because this is what I'm aligned with, is God talks about in the Bible how he provides for the sparrow. So imagine for a second, if God's providing for a small little bird that's scrambling through the universe or life or whatever it might be in the earth, getting food, imagine how he's going to provide for you, because you're made in likeness of him. You're made in the image of him. So for me as an entrepreneur, Andrew, to recircle back, fear is a liar. Mm-hmm. That's my belief. And that's what I teach my clients as well.
I was in meditation the other day, and I was having some difficulty with a bunch of things. And it's funny, the very first thing I am not a regular Bible reader. It was just one of those, religious growing up. So it makes this a little bit different. And it's been while since I've been in this specific book. So I'm sitting there meditating on it, just kind of tapping in and, asking what I should do. And the very first thing that comes into my mind is 1 Corinthians 4:7. Now, I'm going to be really honest. I have not read the letters of Paul to the Corinthians for probably 7-8 years minimum.
Yeah.
So this was one of those divine inspiration things that came down. And to really briefly paraphrase this, because it doesn't, to quote, it doesn't quite work, right? What it basically said is, look, you're not creating alone. Who are you to think that you're the only one creating this? And that was exactly what I needed to hear at that moment, going, no, you're co-creating something amazing, which gave me a huge amount of freedom to be able to say, why am I overthinking this? You said it earlier on a little bit ago in the podcast, that you can't do this alone. And it's with the people around us, building a good tribe. I think you probably have this too. I've got a really good tribe of inner circle people. These are the people that will candor is our love language. So they will have no problem telling me, dude, that sucks. Here's why. Those are my best friends, the ones that will be candid with me and will help me through, because we've both been through this entrepreneurship journey together. We all understand there's times when we're going to screw stuff up over and over again. And there's also times when we're so stuck in the forest, we can't see the forest through the trees. 100%. And so it's really difficult for us to see that, having that tribe around us and and again, like you said, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a trust fund kid who's built a company. If you've built a company, you've done it with other people, period. Yeah.
What I think of is, you're right. You cannot see through that. But what I always tell my clients, I always say, can you see your first step?
Yep.
And they're always like, yes, because it ties into, for me and what I teach my clients, faith is the center of everything that I do. However, I believe also, though, in the excellent piece as entrepreneurs, right? I've taught and worked with elite athletes in spaces and broken barriers in the education system. And now I'm providing immense value for my brand, Live to Thrive, in the agency. So I understand that, I use the two S's even in entrepreneurship, is spiritual and strategic. And here's the thing, you got to have some type of plan. And then then I would put like an equal, pray and plan. And for you, it's probably meditate and plan. So it'd be maybe MP. So what I do is I help my clients understand the spiritual hunger or spiritual maturity and emotional regulation that goes like hand to hand, like they're in tandem. Yeah. So what my thought was on that is, from an entrepreneur's perspective, Andrew, is, and what I teach my clients is faith is the center of everything that we do, right? And I alluded to it earlier about either you choosing to live in a life of faith or fear. However, I believe not only with faith, you as entrepreneurs, we want excellence, right? So what I've done in my past and who I've worked with, et cetera, but I've walked with elite athletes in particular spaces. I've broken barriers in education. And so I understand that you can, I use the two S's. I think with entrepreneurship, truly, I think it needs to be spiritual and I think it needs to be strategic. And then you alluded to the next piece, which I would put then. So if you put the two S's together plus these other two things, which is the two P's, I use prayer and plan. You would put MP, which is meditation and plan. And then what that does is that builds a general framework that I can help my clients understand that for me and what I've established. Andrew, I'm going to add a little bit more here, and I'm getting excited about this. You need to understand how manifestation works on top of that. You need to learn how the law of attraction works. I have done all of that to get where I am. I got a house. I got a car. Everything that I visioned and I prayed about and I thought about, I have. Yeah. I truly have. My business has dramatically changed. So it ties into this piece, which is the spiritual maturity and the emotional regulation. Those two pieces And entrepreneurship is huge because they tie together and they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and sometimes in entrepreneurship, all we have is faith, and that is it. You have to make payroll tomorrow. You're about $5,000 short, and you have no idea how the hell to get it. Sometimes faith is all we are working on, and I think that's one of the things that really gets us through a lot of it. Is just being able to have that faith going. It's going to work. I don't know how, but it's going to work.
100%. I thought about this for a second. I want to talk a little bit because entrepreneurship, if not done in a correct way, without, I would say, some type of transformation, can lead to burnout, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So some of my thoughts to the listeners here today is I'm going to give you some just simple, basic stuff, which I'll say this really quick as a side note. As a professional basketball coach, I had one opportunity one day to go see Kobe Bryant practice. I met him at a Nike camp, and I got to see him before he had passed away. Can I share that story real quick before I go into it? Okay. So it was a pretty cool story. So I met his, who was it? Who represents him? What are they called? Agents. Yeah. So I met his agent, and I was just like, man, because I was in town for this convention and just being a coach, and he's like, hey, why don't you come see his workout? It was super early in the morning. The guy told me to come up. His agent told me to show up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, okay, I'm going to I want to get there early because I want to see everything that he does, right? I'm like super pumped about it. So I'm like, okay, at this time I had to get an Uber because I think it was an Uber. No, it was a taxi at that time. It was a taxi. And I had to get a taxi, and I got a taxi. I got it at it was about 15, 20 minutes away. So I was like, okay, if I get there early, I'll be able to see him. So I arrive, and they gave me the directions to get back. I had to go through this back way to get in, and very quiet, very secretive. But as I'm getting in, Andrew, you're going to really like this story. And similar to entrepreneurship is I hear a basketball dribbling as I get closer. It gets louder and louder and louder. Here I see Kobe Bryant drenched in probably mid-workout. And I thought to myself, okay, he told me 5 o'clock is when he started. This must be his warm-up. So after all said and done, I didn't really talk to him because I don't like to take their time and their space. Yeah. So I had an opportunity to go back and talk to the agent, and he's like, yeah, he may say 5 o'clock, but he gets there at 4:15 every day. And I was like, wow. So I say all that because, you need to, as entrepreneurs, you need to have structure. You need to have discipline. Mm-hmm. You need to have development. And I seen this and I worked in the WNBA sector. So, but still, I mean, we can say all that, but I see all this stuff that's missing. You can talk about entrepreneurship. You could talk about relationships. You could talk about your business. It fits every perspective and every genre, but the common denominator is always the same, Andrew. And here's what it is. People truly they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want, the most important, they want to be equipped. And that's truly what I have learned through my entrepreneurship to give back, is equipping them with the proper tool belt. We all go through life. We start life out with a tool belt with not many tools. Mm-hmm. Right? So you hire coaches, you hire different individuals that can help you build that toolkit. So, that's immediately what I thought of when we were talking, and I kind of went off here, but yeah.
Oh no, those tangents are sometimes the best stories. Like you're saying with the tool belt and having everything together, part of it, what it is, you don't hire a coach to make your business better or to have the next tactic. You hire a coach because of the experience. You're buying their experience, and it's an easier way to level up. So if you have somebody who's absolutely brand new in business and just started the company and they're starting to get off and going, you want to go to somebody like us who's been around this before. We've been through the trenches. We'll sit in the mud with you and go, yep, I know it sucks, man. I get it. Hold your hand through it and go, okay, let me help you out with this. Here's how I screwed up. And here's how you can not do that.
that 100%. I said, and I don't know if I said this with you when you were on my podcast, I wish I had me 10 years ago.
Yep.
I wish I would have had me as my coach 10 years ago, because my goodness, I'd be in a Caribbean island right now with my laptop. I don't drink, but I probably would have some kind of fancy umbrella drink just for the nostalgic, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like, I get it. I get it, brother. Absolutely.
So true.
You know, I was thinking, and I know the title of your podcast, and I'm going to say this, and I want to hear your thoughts on this because, you know, you use the word grinding, and I don't like to use the word grinding, and I'm going to tell you why. I use the other G word. I use growing because I feel like if your hustle has become your hiding place, I think, from my perspective, it's time to shift.
Yeah.
And I think because a lot of us are in, you created this, and I think I did a reel on this, is the survival mode, right? Where when we are in the survival mode, you're doing the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do, which is you are designed, for everybody that's listening here, all our entrepreneurs out there, you're designed to thrive. And I love, and the thing is, you're like, everybody wants to get from point A to Z. You're not enjoying the journey, man. Enjoy the suck. We talked about this on my podcast, is you got to enjoy that piece. You got to say, man, this is awesome. Let's do more. Yeah, I'm learning.
And I'm used to being uncomfortable. I'm used to being in a situation where I don't know what's going to happen next, but I have that faith to be able to do it. I'm going to take that next step. I got a story behind this one. So my mom is a psychologist and totally overthinks things. That's her ninja skill, is going from zero to the worst case scenario in 1 minute. She's really good at it. I love my mother to death, but this is her thing. And she was all in her head about something. And to me, I'm looking at it from the outside going, the world's not going to be ripped asunder because of this. This is not like the things are going to, this isn't nuclear science here. This is a decision. And I told her, look, what's your next step? So funny, years later, she comes back to me. I was in my head too, because I'm her son. So of course I inherited some of this. And she goes, you told me this years ago, and I'm going to tell this to you again. Don't worry about the step 100 out there. What is your next step? So it's funny. It came right back full circle going, that's the next thing you need to learn. So, I love that part of it, but yeah, it was going somewhere, but that was a good story. Let's end there.
That's okay. You're like me, because it's like rabbit, dog. Wait, what?
That's all.
What? Yeah. No, but I know you're 100% right. And I want to just go back to what you had said is, we always think, because it's our human nature, we think of worst case scenario. And then you have to ask yourself, and I always tell my clients this, because overthinking, anxiety, depression are all signs of fear. They're all signs of fear. You have to ask yourself, is this true? And if it's not true at that particular moment, why are you investing in that energy? And then on top of that is, let's say you do have this thought of the worst case scenario. Look at the statistics. If you don't believe me, look this up for yourself. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So again, concentrate on that first step and ask yourself, like, is this really true? Is this really true? And it's not a, well, if this scenario happened, or it's a simple yes or no. It's that simple. And then you take the next step. I love that way you said that.
And business coach one day, his name was Brad, and it had a massive effect on me when I was probably 3 or 4 years into the journey. And he said to me, he's like, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do a visualization practice for me. What is your worst case scenario? And I said it. He's like, okay, let's go a step further. What would happen what's even worse than that? Okay, let's keep going. What's even worse than that? And we kept going through this until there was a bear and a chainsaw involved. Something so absurd that it would never happen. Yeah. And then he took me back and said, okay, now let's look at the problem again.
For sure.
Absolutely put it into perspective. Just like I told my mom many years ago, this isn't rocket science. We're not performing surgery. This isn't life and death. We're not going to end the world if we make a wrong decision. Now go back and take a look at that again and see what happens, and see if you can make another decision on it and get some perspective.
I think of there's a module that I use in a script, or a method, I should say, rather. I call it the Live to Thrive 4 M's. And I'm going to break this down for you because this is all for high performers. And I work with high performers all the time in my coaching sector. And what's important is emotional intelligence. I'm going to tell you this right now, as entrepreneurs, emotional intelligence is kind of rooted for me and what I teach into biblical values. And I have these tested strategies. Stick with me here because this is going to be a really good nugget here is everybody's always like, I need motivation. Nope. I'm not here. I don't motivate, Andrew. What I do is I use the other M word, which is mobilize. So this is a really gold nugget for your entrepreneur listeners, because I just thought about this right now. It's the 4M method that I use it with my Live to Thrive formula. Here it is. If you're taking notes, it's a great time to do it. So you got mindset, right? And that's where you have the renewing of your thoughts. Okay. If you're constantly saying, how stupid was I to make that decision? Come talk to me, please. Step in my office. We'll have a different conversation. But that's true, though. That happens all the time. The second M that I want to say is the marriage relationship pieces. And that's that rebuilding connection. And the third one, do you have a mission? How are you reconnecting and aligning your purpose? And this is a big piece and part of the programming, because the mind, body, and soul are all connected, is the last M, which is I call the movement piece. Are your actions that you do aligning with your vision? Because I think that is a great way for your entrepreneurs to do that, because what that does, it's going to allow you to provide real-time feedback. And on top of that, I'm going to say 99% of us need the ongoing accountability. Because let's be honest, those of you that are listening, we don't just chase goals. We're shifting identities, right?
Yeah, exactly. Michael, we're coming to the end here. We can keep going for hours.
Without a doubt, brother. I can't. I'm vibing with you, man. This is great. I appreciate you.
It's one of those moments when it's like, I know that I have to cut it off, but I just really don't want to. You know what I mean?
I understand.
You brought so much amazing information today, man, and I've had such a good time talking to you. I am honored to have you on. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle and Grind podcast, where we unpack what it really takes to build something that matters. If today's conversation hit home, do me a favor. Share it with someone who's in the trenches too. And if you're building your own brand, platform, or message and want help turning that story into serious authority, head over to theauthorityforge.com to see how we can help. Until next time, keep showing up, keep shipping, and keep chasing the work that sets you on fire. I'm Andrew, and this was the Hustle and Grind podcast.